Okay. Good morning, everyone. Harry Mansfield here again. So for those of you who know me, apologies, because I repeat everything all the time, the same as anyone in business does. And for those who don't, I am a mental strength coach, and my company is The Awareness Key. And we teach you how to power up your mind before it powers you down, because we are completely passionate about getting out there the skills to prevent mental health problems. And we got the most amazing testament the other day, just fantastic. And they described the Awareness Key as the ultimate vaccine to prevent mental health problems. And I'll tell you, I was on cloud nine, because being a sports coach for 25 years, it's all about getting the best out of people. So I loved it, absolutely loved it. So we're doing these interviews to promote what people do with regards to their own work that actually support mental health. And Jack, I met, well, we've just found out a month ago today. I didn't realise it was a month ago today exactly, on Clubhouse, because in my opinion, as I am not a runner at all, he did what was completely insane and run 100K for charity. And the charity he chose was for Mind, which obviously everyone all knows is to do with mental health. So Jack, tell us a bit more about who you are, why on earth you did it, and take it away. A month today, congratulations.
Thank you, Harry. So nice to be here. Yeah, that's a month today. It's gone quick, that's for sure. And this is probably one of half a dozen interviews I've done about it, and it still feels quite fresh. I ran 100 kilometers in a day a month ago for charity, but I did it for raising awareness for mental health as a result of the pandemic directly. Yeah. I think before I go into the run, I'll sort of take it back to kind of why it was so poignant for me to do it for Mind. And the reason came for when the lockdown and the whole pandemic hit. I was in a position where my old work and what I was before kind of the pandemic hit, which was I was an international model. I roamed the world just kind of taking really cool campaigns and photos, and it was great. And that work vanished overnight, and I was in this position where I was like, I don't really have anything to do, and I feel a bit sort of a loose end. And one of my worst or best traits, however you look at it, is I can't sit still. I'm terrible at sitting still, which is probably why I ran 100K.
Exactly, definitely on the move.
So I sort of found myself in this weird position where I just was looking for things to do, and obviously everything was closed. And I've always been into my fitness anyway. I'm sort of running Ironmans and things like that. And I thought, you know what, I'm gonna get more into running. And on the days where it felt really hard, I found that going for a run was actually the only thing that made me feel really good about myself and made me feel clear about what was going on in the world, not just in my life, but just in general. And that theme just stuck with me. And as you can remember, the last summer, we had quite a nice kind of beginning of lockdown. It was actually quite nice weather. Yeah. And, London was a complete ghost town. There was no one in it. So I was amazed. I could run all the way along the South Bank and not have to dodge people. And I was running past the House of Parliament and no one was there. It was amazing. It was probably a unique experience that will never be repeated ever, So I found myself in this really amazing place where I just was loving running. And sort of fast forward into kind of the back end of last year, coaching is something that I've been studying for a long time, but I'd never really committed to it. So I doubled down on my coaching last year and found it so beneficial, not just for sort of helping me, but also helping others. And, I'm now running quite a successful coaching business, which is really, really helpful. But when it came time for sort of looking at this run, I'd actually seen another coach, a guy in the industry called JP de Villiers, who'd run 50 kilometers on Clubhouse and did this to sort of raise awareness for a charity he was passionate about. Yeah. And it was like the world first. And the fact that it was the world first, and the fact that it was this new app and this kind of like this distance, I was like,
inspiring.
I could do that. I'm just thinking, is that possible? Like, what could I do that could kind of be something similar that, could sort of be bigger than me kind of thing. And anyway, it was as if by magic, a couple of days later, my friend messaged me and said, hey, there's this event coming up in a couple of weeks that's called like Dawn to Dusk. And it's basically where you have to run from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. And try and do as many kilometers as you can in a day. And I just went, right, take that idea and this idea, put them together. Yeah, okay. And for some reason, 100K just seemed like a good amount of time, and I sort of did the maths thinking, well, I've done a marathon in that time. So if I times that by 2 and a bit, maybe, I could probably do, in about 12 hours. Okay. So that's where it came from. And then literally the same day, I actually went for a run just to kind of make sure that I wasn't, thinking of something really ridiculous. And then came back and went on Clubhouse and just started speaking about it. And it was incredible, the amount of people that wanted to get involved and help. And then it just kind of caught fire. I had no idea of how much it would grow. And then as the day started to get closer, people were like, right, how can I help? Can I moderate? Can I get involved? Can I this? Can I that? And it just came to this point where I was spending 3 days kind of writing out this schedule for kind of 30 odd people kind of coming on and moderating and helping. And then the day came, and, I set foot out the side of the house at 6 a.m. to go and run this distance. And I had feelings of excitement and emotions of sort of like, wow, this is actually happening. And then throughout the day was just not only a physical battle, I knew it was going to be, and I knew it was going to be hard on me because I'd never done such a big distance, but the mental capacity it took me to get through those hard times. There was moments of elation, like I was flying across like all the bridges in London. And then there were moments where I hit the dreaded wall that everyone knows about. Yeah. But I did that over multiple different times. And I think that if I hadn't have had people in my ears kind of giving me motivation and kind of keeping me going, I would have definitely stopped. I think I would have definitely stopped, because I remember back to those times where it was really stressful and I just was so much pain and I just couldn't think straight. But yeah, everybody in that space was keeping me going. Yeah, keeping me going.
Is there any particular conversation that you remember from that day, that like one or two that just stick in your head?
There was a few, yeah. So there was a guy called Dean Hammond who came on the call, and he was talking about, sadly, the loss of one of his soldiers that had been unfortunately killed in a training accident, and the way he was speaking about how the person that did it and how it happened was obviously something that was completely accident, but it was really affected that not just his mental health, but everyone else's around it. And it's like, what are we doing this for? Is this even? And so he talking about that was a real hard hitter. But the one that really stood out for me was a girl that came on who had never shared her mental health journey with anyone, not even a family or friends. And she sat in the audience for God knows how long, maybe an hour or two, before she put her hand up and came on stage. And she shared the most incredible story of what she'd been through, and then said to us, that's the first time I've ever shared that out loud. And that was a moment for me that realized that we hadn't just decided to run 100 kilometers. We hadn't decided to just raise money for charity, but what we'd done is created a space safe enough so that people like her could share her story and get it out of her chest, to have the support of every single person in that room, help her. We were on the call for about, I think it was about an hour, just with her talking about what was going right and what was wrong and how she could get help. And it was just, I remember just listening to it as if it was like a podcast and forgetting that I was on the call, because it was just so engrossed in it. And those moments will stay with me forever, because that's what we did it for. It was the conversation starter that, how do I put this? It's like we did what, I did what I could for those that couldn't. And we started a conversation that hopefully rippled out further than what the day actually brought. And I mean, it has, a month later, we're still talking about it.
Yeah. I think it's fantastic that how the hell you had a conversation and was doing the running at the same time. I just don't know. I find that amazing. But it's really interesting that you've actually remembered those two things, because I and you as a coach, I'm sure you want that you're the person that you're working with to really benefit from the skills that you're teaching them. And I find that anything that you learn through experience is always remembered. So you've got those two key things in your mind. We remember the holidays, we remember the days out, we remember all that kind of stuff, and it's fun. And so you remember it. And I did really badly when I was at school, and I came away with one O-level in those days, because I'm old, and it was in Greek civilization. I mean, what the hell use is that to anybody? But the reason why it actually was successful for me is because on one side of my family are Greek. So I was inspired by it. I was interested in it. And I've actually developed all my work so that it's experiential, so you remember it. And we teach it in so many different ways, because it is so key to actually remembering it. I think the latest figures I heard for an online training course, where it isn't actually live and you haven't got interaction, I think the current figures are just 22% for retention. And you think, oh my God, big businesses are spending a fortune on these courses because it's something they need to do. They need to tick a box. But if they're doing that and a member of staff is actually only remembering 22% of the end, what the hell is it going to be like? Here we are a month on from your run. How much would you remember after a month? And then how much after that? So I think what you've done is you've created awareness, you've created a memory. Physically, it's an amazing thing that you've actually done. But it's really interesting from my work's point of view, the way you talk about the wall that you hit. And I'm not sure people have actually got it yet. I know the pandemic, it's been horrendous, but I'm not sure people have got the fact that you can actually prevent mental health problems yet, because all the money you raised is so necessary, because it's got to be there for the people that are having trouble at the moment.
Yeah.
But, unlike things like cancer, where, sadly we can't prevent it, with this, if you teach the right skills, you can. And I hope that the pandemic is starting to make people realise that you can. I mean, I've been doing it for years, but not everybody realises. So stuff you've done is just fantastic with awareness. And actually, when you were talking about Dean, I was there actually at that, but I know I dipped in and out throughout the day. I remember listening to that. And all I think you can do is actually be really proud of the fact you allowed not only the effort that you did with raising the money, but you allowed that space to happen. And with any coaching, whether it's you coaching or whether it's me coaching, it is so important to create that space. Definitely.
Big time. The space that you create is actually the most. That's what a lot of people, when people pay for coaches, it's what they pay for. The fact that you can talk to anyone about anything, right? And if you've got the confidence to do that, but the issue is that a lot of people don't actually take it. They listen sort of passively rather than actively, and they don't actually take in and read between the lines and ask you the questions that promote and provoke more. So I think our jobs as coaches is not to necessarily fix anyone or help anyone. It's literally just to probe in the right areas so that they can help themselves. And what happened for me during that run was I realized that I am a human that can do 100 kilometers in a day. There was parts of it I didn't think I could do it, but I proved myself wrong, which in my own world raised my bar above what I thought I was capable of. I'm running my third Ironman this year, and I was having a walk with my girlfriend.
You're a
do you know what? It's more. I do it because I've got this all or nothing personality. For me, it's like, well, why not? And I will continue to do that for most of my life. But I was chatting to my girlfriend, and I just said, like, this time last year, I was so nervous about doing an Ironman, and since then I've done 2. But I now look at it and go, it's going to be so much more enjoyable. And that was the moment for me. I realized that, okay, if I can make 100 kilometers in a day feel enjoyable and kind of like look at that from there on out, what would happen if someone was to actually just share a story or share a problem or a challenge they're having? How much more enjoyable do you think their life would be, knowing that they shared that with somebody, knowing that somebody else knows about that? And I think that's the key to this whole thing. It's that the vaccine is going to cure COVID. Of course, it will get rid of it. And, in a couple of years' time, everyone will forget what happened. But what we won't forget is the problems that we've experienced as a result of the pandemic and the confinement and the people, the human interaction. The thing that it reminds me of a study that Harvard University have been doing since 1940, I think it is. It's one of the longest psychological studies of history. But what they did is they took 500 guys at Harvard, and they basically did a sort of a happiness test, right? Yeah. And they asked them a bunch of questions, and then they've done it every single year to date. And so of that 500, I think there's like 10 left or something. But what they found is that the happiness of people isn't based on money. They had 2 presidents in that 500. They're millionaires, billionaires. It wasn't to do with money. It was to do with human connection and variety, right? Yeah. And I think that one thing that the pandemic has not given us is those 2 things. Yeah. So there's going to be a huge influx of people who are going to go back to normal like that. Fine. They do their thing. But it's those people that need to then help the people that can't. So if you're listening to this and you've got a friend who hasn't responded to you when you say, hey, the pubs are open now, should we go to have a drink on a Friday afternoon, or let's go and have Sunday lunch if they haven't responded, they're the ones you need to follow up with more, not the ones that are like, I'm up for it, let's do it, because they might be the ones that need the extra help. So I'd urge anyone listening to this just to reach out to those people that would have gone if it was before the pandemic, that are not now responding for whatever reason.
Yeah, I think that words are so true. I think of the topic of mental health has always been negative up until now with the pandemic. And actually, that's what I've been up against with my work, because when I say I'm a mental strength coach, people look at me and go, what? And I'm going, yeah, but it's a part of your body. You train it as you do, a physical part of your body. It's like going to the gym for physical fitness. You have to train your mind for mental fitness. And I think that it's been very superficial, even now coming out of the pandemic. So everyone says, how are you? And it's just like a general question, isn't it? And you have to ask it like twice before you actually get a connection.
Yeah.
And in England, where we are, we're always talking about the flipping weather when you don't actually know what to talk to someone about.
Yeah.
And it's really like that, because the weather is how I describe mental health and mental strength, because it's superficial. People don't realize that you actually need to step up and do something about it. And every day is going to have the calm bits, the stormy bits. But let's face it, we've had the tornadoes in this last year. And if you've got the skills and you know what's specific to you, like any physical fitness program, what will work for you is completely different to what's going to work for me and what's going to work for my two sons.
Yeah.
Then actually you're going to have a weather day where it is blue sky and the white clouds going over, because these things don't affect you so much. And going back to Dean on Clubhouse and the lady that you were talking about, to have the skills when they hit that wall. And for you, when you were running, what was it that got you actually through it? Was it the room itself that got you through it?
I think there was probably the one I remember the most was the one at around sort of 56 kilometers roughly. So I'd done a marathon, and then I was obviously in uncharted territory, and I was like, I actually realized from my time that I was like, I'm running way too fast for what I know I'm going to be able to do, because my marathon time was about 15-20 minutes slower than what I normally do, which is not wasn't a good place to be at. So I remember hitting this wall and just being like, I'm just over halfway and I've still got to do all that again, and I'm tired and I'm hungry, and I'm like, okay, like I need to really look at the strategy here and stop thinking about the emotions. I need to think about it logically. And that was when I sort of went into what I like to call, military mode, and was like, right, what do I need to do to get to where I need to be? And then I think I shared it in the group, and people started giving me a bit of encouragement and sort of telling me a few things. I think Dean even came in with some bits and bobs. But what was really cool was I then got over that, but then there was about 3 or 4 more kind of like much shorter increments, sort of like 75 and then 81 and then 92, and those were the ones where I had sheer grit around, like, okay, I just need to push through, because I got past the point of like, if I quit now, then that was for nothing. And that was where I was at. It was like there was a point of what I like to call the tipping point, as a Malcolm Gladwell expression. There was a point in which I couldn't go backwards, because if I did, it would have been pointless, and I would never have been able to forgive myself. And so there was an element of pride and stubbornness, but also I'm doing this it's not for me. I'm not doing this for me. I'm doing this to try and raise awareness and money for charity that I think needs it more than I do. And if you look at the stats, actually, the money we raised, I think the majority of the money was raised within the last 2 hours of the run, which I think is funny, because it kind of says like, maybe people were like, oh, he's not going to do this, and I'm not going to donate until he's actually done it. Kind of thing. One of those sorts of things, but who cares? Like, I think if that's what it takes, then that's what it takes, So for me, it was looking at, like, from a physical point of view, the wall, it can only make you stronger by kind of pushing through those barriers, and it's putting yourself outside your comfort zone at the end of the day. There's what I like to call the comfort zone, then there's the stretch zone, then there's the panic zone, right? You don't want to go too far, because you get panicked and you go straight back to the middle. But when you push yourself ever so slightly to the stretch zone and just stay there, and you just feel how comfortable it is, suddenly your comfort zone gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And being in that environment and having the people around me, metaphorically, was definitely the bit that helped me push through those boundaries and get myself over the line. And the last 12 kilometers, my girlfriend came out for a run with me, and we literally, if you look at the map of where I went literally up and down the streets near me, and it looks like a rib cage on the map.
I love it.
And I remember literally I was like shuffling, like I was so spent, I was so done. And I just knew that I had to keep going, and if I stopped, it would have been it. So it was this whole thing of like, I can either walk it, but it will take longer, or I can just go a little bit faster and it'll be done quicker, but it will hurt more. And it was this just mental battle going like, pain, stop, no, keep going, like back and forth. But it was done. And I think the funny thing was, when I got back to my house, I live on the second floor of a flat building, and I ran up the stairs because I was so happy, that I'd done it. And I was just like,
at the end of it, I was sitting there going, serious?
Sprinted up though. I was like, I've obviously found the energy from somewhere, but it just shows that you are more capable physically than you do, then sometimes your mind lets you on for. And as I'm
Did
sure
you
you know,
bump into a next door neighbour or something? Because I remember you just suddenly dropping the line in, yeah, I've just run 100k to charity to someone. I was going, oh my God, that was just so bizarre.
Yeah. There's this guy who lived 2 doors down from me. He was just standing outside having a cigarette, and my girlfriend was taking a picture of me finishing, and he was like looking at me all weird. And I was like, I've just run 100k for charity. I was like,
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. But that just goes to show how we can actually train our mind to get through those the curveballs of life, whether it's health or bereavement or job loss or whatever it is. We can do it. And actually, it's interesting you talk about the military side again, because many years ago, I did a parachute jump. And I know if it hadn't been for the way I'd been trained, that actually I would never have done it, because why would you jump out of a perfectly serviceable aircraft at 2,000 feet? It just doesn't make sense, does it? But you can train your mind. And, by doing that, we can incorporate it into our day-to-day lives. Because it's funny, because with mental health being talked about so much now, everyone says, go for a jog or a dog walk or meditation. And that's fine. But actually, if you think about it, in the middle of a meeting at work, which is a bit crap or a bit shit or something like that, you can't go off and do that. So you do need to learn the skills that's going to get you through that particular thing at the time. Exactly. But you've done amazing stuff, absolutely amazing. So how much did you raise in the end?
Raised £2,522, I think, off the top of my head.
Wow, for mines, that's fantastic.
Really, really good.
Oh my God.
And I think what's more powerful is the people I've met along the way, but also the conversations I've now started. And it's actually something that I have started putting the wheels in motion to do another event. Not me doing 100 kilometers, but it's going to be something that's equally as sort of large, in the sense of I'd like to run the length of the country in a relay style while on Clubhouse. So, and the idea would be to get not just obviously people like myself who like running, but it's like sort of bigger personalities in the space. So, celebrities or, ex-runners who have some weight behind them in terms of PR, who can come and do a leg, and I've worked out that if we
need to talk about this actually, because I've been talking about a few athletes, Paralympians and actually past athletes, with regards to supporting the petition that I've got out there for preventing mental health problems. So I might have a couple of connections. So it would be great if we could do that. That'd
be amazing. And the idea would be that either we get sort of a charity on board that can support it, or we do multiple charity. Everyone basically raises money for their chosen charity. But the idea would be that everyone runs a half marathon or a marathon, depends on what you can sort of stomach, and the idea would be that there'll be a bunch of hosts along the way in each section. That would be like sort of the guest of honor, if you like, and then in the room, and then people would be moderating, and it would be like the same thing. People just kind of come and go throughout. But I reckon it would take about 5.5 days non-stop. Because
the one that's known really well for cycling, of course, is Land's End to John O'Groats, isn't it?
That's the distance.
Is there an equivalent in running? There isn't.
No. So someone has done that route running, and it took them. I think that the record is I think 4 days or 4 something days. So, and I've worked out that if you did it at the rough pace of a half marathon, which is about 2 hours, give or take, people will be faster and slower. It will take 5.5 days to do from the same distance, which not only would be amazing because it would just be, logistically, it's a bit of a nightmare.
But that's faster than a lot of the cyclists that do it just for fun. So that's impressive.
So I think it would be quite an interesting one, but it's something that I'm looking at potentially putting into pipeline. I've just sort of got to work out logistically if it's doable with COVID and all the rest of the rules, but also feasible in terms of just the organization of like who's gonna, I thought about doing it in a way that people could like bid for a route. So let's for example say that the bit between Exeter and I don't know wherever else, the sort of the marathon bit there, you could bid for it, and it's like, so you bid, say, and all the money obviously goes to charity. But if you had 68 people, which is the amount of legs you'd have if you did it in half marathons, each bidding, let's say £1,000 each, through donations and whatever else, that's 68 grand already, plus whatever else we raise for charity, plus all the PR involved. I think it'd be a really cool thing to do. Yeah, definitely. Oh yes, definitely behind you on that one. Amazing. I won't be running, but I'll be behind you, supporting you. Be in the club. You can do you've got so much amazing. What I love most about hearing you on Clubhouse is that you have such a lovely voice, first of all, but also a really nice way of just explaining things that people I've found every time I've been in a room with you, if people have asked a question, you've always been able to explain it really, really well. And so, you know, being able to be someone like that in a space where people need to understand more about a certain subject is great. So even if you're not running, you'll add all the value in the world with that side of things. So that'd be great.
Thank you. I'll be there supporting you. Brilliant. Well, so many congratulations. I think it's amazing what you've achieved. And as a result, how many people you will be helping with the, you know, health problems that are out there mentally that, you know, once people need help, but let's get the message out there that we can prevent it and, you know, all live a healthy life. There is no strength without mental strength, is there?
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely. And
fantastic.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for your time. That's brilliant, Jack.
Pleasure, Harry. Lovely to see you. Bye.
Bye.